If you can do these jobs, you're on the right track to become an electrician. Let's start with number one, a ceiling rose. And with a ceiling rose, you know it's live because it's on. But, has it got a live and a neutral? Yes, it's got a live and a neutral there. So first things first, safe isolation. And I know where it's fed from, so I'm going to go all the way back to the fuse board, find the circuit which feeds this supply. Go to the fuse board and it's labelled. Flat sockets, yeah, we'll have them later. Flat lighting, there we go. So we'll knock that off and then get your safe isolation lock to go over that MCB so no one can come along and turn it on when you're working on it, because the last thing you want is to get shock. So let's go back and get that because we forgot it. We know that the light's off because it doesn't switch on, but we also need to check. I'm quite confident that the lights are off, but make sure that that's dead. Live, I've got to do this with two hands. Live and earth. Oh, flipping out. There we go. You're live and you're... I've got to do this with one hand. So once you know it's dead, this one has been painted, so we've got to just... You know that's the earth, because it goes into the earth terminal, and you can see it, look, once that comes off on there, and you can see the red and the black cables. So basically just disconnect it all, your switch wires, the whole lot, to rip this old ceiling rose off the ceiling. Once you've got them all undone, nice and loose, get your screwdriver in there and just pull them all out. There we go, and it should, as he says, come straight off. There we go. We've got your switch live. Oh. You've got your switch live, you're live in and out. And then that one looks like it was something else. I don't know what. So we're not going to connect that because that is an old cable. Let's get rid of it and pull it out from the top. Don't need it. So sometimes when you're faffing around, you might have this as well, where this bit might just fall off. So then basically, all your cables look the same. So then this is how to find out which one of them three cables is going to be your switch wire, because you can't just connect it up and hope for the best. You want to determine which one's your switch wire for it to work with the switch. So while you're there, oh flipping hell. So while you're down at the switch, you might as well change the switch too. And this is just a matter of undoing the switch, pulling it out. Getting rid of these old switches, because yeah, it is getting a little bit loose and that's going to fail sooner or later. I have actually been to a job this morning which was a call out where one of these switches went faulty. So, bin that. So to find your switch wire, get yourself some Wagos. These are the big ones, but end of the day it doesn't matter because you're only using them for temporary to test. So get that on one of the cables, if you can. There we go. That's on there. And then that on there. And your little volt tester. That's going to beep. So that's the little continuity tester. So that's going to beep. So you shove one end in there, and then one end in there. Go back to your wires. Because it's dead, it doesn't matter. That's not your switch wire. That's not your switch wire. So this one, there we go. That is showing continuity over there. So that one's your switch wire. So you can put your sleeve in back onto that black cable, which is not a neutral, it's a switch wire. Get yourself a new switch. Here we go, click mode, spot on new switch. And then, look, these are doubled over and labelled up, so they're fine. But we want to put it in L1, undo that, and get that in there. Look at that, too much for this one. So, what you want to do is get yourself a set of cutters. Flipping lights fell down. Because these are too big to go into the new switch, I'm going to cut them down. Cut them off and re-terminate. And then, because you've got your common at the top, this is a one-way switch. Well, this is a two-way switch, but they all can't, they'll do two. Two ways do a one-way. So we'll put that in there, and what you want is to show no copper inside that switch. That is what you want. But not clamp onto the sheath of the cable. And then in here, and again, showing no copper out of that switch. That is how it wants to look. But don't fix it back just yet. Then you want to get your ceiling rose, and that should go on there. He says, so you got over these cables and fix up to the ceiling. Like this. And I know for a fact that there's a joist running down there. So I can fix this straight onto that joist. So it's a good fixing. And that is your ceiling rose fixed up, so it makes it easier to terminate these. And what I'd do first is your switch wire, because that's the one where that sleeving will come off. So get your switch wire in first, which will go on these N2 terminals to be able to activate the light, to switch it on. So that's your switch wire in. So that will be the switch live from the switch and the live going down to the switch. So now you've got two terminals for your live in, live out, and then this will be your neutral in, neutral out on the actual live cables coming in. And obviously your earths all want to be inside of that earth block there. So then there we go, we've got the neutrals coming in, the live looped in and out, the switch live, and then, well, that's going down to the switch, and then that one comes back from the switch, which will turn the light on. And obviously all your earths, a bit of paint on them, but they are in that terminal block there. And when you put these on here, you want to make sure that these loop round and go into it, because if you don't, once you put this up, you don't want lights that look like that. They're not good. So you need to loop them round to go up and on to that. So then that's nice and neat inside. So once you put the pendant cover on, you can't see any cables coming out of there. And there you go. And then before you fit the switch back, because that is basically off, that is on. It needs to be pushed down on. It's horrible when you go in people's houses and you go, your light switch is upside down. I suppose only electricians notice this, but, so let's make sure that this is the right way around. So that's on, because that's belling out there. So it wants to be that way up. And that's off. So then we know that now, we can fix the switch back. and that'll be perfect. With these switches as well, if you see in there, you can see where the screws, 3.5 screws, are going to go back. So make sure that these cables are not going to get caught, because if that blows if that goes to earth, then it's going to blow your fuse once you put your switch back. So make sure you don't get them caught, knowing that people do and wonder why it doesn't work. So that's number one. Nice, simple and easy. And you make sure your switch is level with a level as well. So it's second fix, done and dusted. And then your ceiling rows up there. So if you're an apprentice that can do that, you're already an advantage to any electrician. Because if you can't, then on the next job that you do with your Sparky or something like that with your employer, say to him, I'll do the ceiling rows and the switches, you just test them after with me. Because if you've got what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. By the time you've done 6, yeah, you ain't going to be bad at them. So, and this one as well is a bit more complicated because someone has ripped the switch off of here. Someone smashed the switch, so someone's put a Wago on there and disconnected the switch live up here. I know this for a fact because it was me, because someone smashed the switch, so I took it off. So then number 2 job, if you can do this, you're in good stead to become an electrician. Replacing a double socket. First things first, if your Sparky says to you, replace 20 of these double sockets. We've got a few in here, look. So what you want to do is basically do not kill yourself. Make sure it's dead. There we go. That's live at the minute. So firstly, then we need to switch this off. Shut that up. So firstly, we need to switch this off because we know it's on a ring main. So we're looking for flat sockets. Flat sockets, there we go, on a 32 amp ring. Sounds right. Get that, lock it off once again. And there we go, flat sockets is off. But, because this socket's a bit crap, I'm also going to double check that there's no live and no neutral going to it with this. And there we go, we're dead. So let's whip this off. And what I see a lot of people do as well, make a mistake, don't just use your little terminal. For this one, because it will snap it off. It's a bit tight in there. It'll do the job, but if you've got a selection of screwdrivers, like I have, get yourself a bigger one. You can get in there and undo it. It's going to make your life a lot easier to undo these sockets. So take this off. Off there. Oh, they're all twisted together, of course. Lives are alright. Neutrals. And then I'm not a fan of all these ones being twisted together. So untwist them. Clean it out as much as possible. It'll just make your life easier. This is an old box for when you put it back. So clean all the crap out. At least it's got grommets. Looks like it's been extended and stuff. But, is that tight? Yep. Now we can open the new socket up. What I'm going to do is, firstly, is open up the terminals we're going to use. So we're going to put all our earths in there, all our neutrals in there, and our lives in that one, obviously. So we've got them all opened up, ready to go in. So let's try and form them nice. So we've got the earths at the back, then will be the neutrals, and then we'll have the lives. get these earths in to this one. It's a bit tight. And don't do them F-tight, like too tight. Just do them enough. You'll get the gist of that. And just enough so you can't tug them out, basically. Give them a bit of a tug test and they're in. Then the neutrals, straight in as well. You can get your screwdriver in there. This is the advantage of having decent screwdrivers, because they don't slip round and they fit perfectly. Give that a tug, ain't going nowhere. And then your lives. And again, you don't want any copper showing out the socket, because anything can happen. It will make a fault. So, well, make sure you can't see any copper coming out of them terminals. Do it up. Here we go. And that's it. Give it a tug. And then when you put it back, make sure you can form them nice and neat in there. What I normally try and do is a bit like a heart shape, where it comes out, goes in, then it loops around into the terminal. So it's a bit tricky to do it with one hand, but I'm going to try and do it with two. Get in there, so they go in nice and formed under no strain, basically. There we go. And then you will need your smaller terminal to fit these 3.5 screws. Make sure it goes back half decent. The decorator's going to have to do some work around this one, I think. So then get your level. Always bonus to have a little light, and make sure it's nice and straight. Nice and level. Do it up nice and tight. Don't put these on, because if someone ever needs to get it off, like the painter or decorator, put these on when it's done and dusted and you're ready to go, or just hand them to the customer, or just throw them and say, I don't know what you're on about. So if you can second fix a double socket, yeah, you're an advantage to an electrician. Now let's up the stakes a bit. What you're going to do with this, there's a light switch for the bathroom and a switch above it. Fan isolator. If you can do this, then you're the next level up. So again, make sure it's dead, which it is because it's a lighting circuit up here. And basically start stripping the cable. And this is a 3-core cable. If you look in here, there is permanent live, switch live, and a neutral. Wide from the switch. And that's it, incoming. So basically we've got a supply to the switch of the permanent live, the switch live, and the neutral, and the earth, and then that goes out to the fan. So basically you can isolate the fan in a bathroom. But then for these cables, obviously we want to put the sleeve in on the earth. And then on the neutrals, which will be the grey, we want to put a bit of blue sleeve in. Slide that over, it's a big bit. Both neutrals, because it'll be incoming and outgoing. Bit tough sometimes, but there we go, they're on. And then on the black as well, which will be the permanent live, for maybe a timer fan or humidistat fan. So we want to put a bit of brown sleeving on to identify that. as alive as well. I want to get these earth cables in the terminal of the back of the box. Just like so. In there. And in there. Because on the front plate, which is a plastic front plate, there's no terminal for the earth. So we get that tightened up in there and make this go nice and neat round it. So there we go, your earths are in. So then we want to cut these down to a decent length. And it's nice to keep them long, but not that long. And get, I don't know, say a centimetre off the ends, because these are single cores going into one switch, so you can double them over just for that little bit better connection. And then we get our isolator, which is just an on-off isolator. And in the back of this, you can see you've got your neutral, live 2, live 1. So basically this is the top side and the outside. So long as one cable goes in there and one cable goes in there, basically you're isolating the circuit. So I'll undo all the screws so they're ready to go on. Basically make sure I've got the cables separated. So we want a neutral to go in there. The L1 can be, oh sorry, the L2, which should be the next one along, can be your switch. Doesn't necessarily matter, but if you keep them the same and not mix them up, as long as it isolates the circuit, does the job, then you'll be fine. Once you've got them in as well, give them a tug to make sure they're not coming out. Switch it round. Do exactly the same with the other cable. And I see some lads, when they're tightening things up, they try and tighten them up so much so that it threads the screw. Don't do that. You'll get the gist, just enough, so you can basically pull it out. That's plenty. And you can put your 2 screws in, and that is your fan isolator on. Let's put the 2 screws in. Again, making sure you do not pinch any of the cables going back. So if you think they're anywhere near, push them out of the way. And then again, it's how confident the electrician that you work with is of you. You fix it back, but make sure it's straight. Make sure it is nice and spot on straight. It's nice to be perfect. You can't get any, yeah, you can get a bit more straight, but, sugar. There we go. And that is your fan isolator on. That's another thing you can do. So that's sort of a third thing that you'll be an advantage for to an electrician. And then another ceiling light, all of them the right way up. Just, it annoys people, it annoys me, basically, I don't know about everyone else. But if the switches are the wrong way around, like, this is a one-way switch, so it'll always have to be that way around. So that switch is on. But to be honest with you, there is one tool every apprentice is gonna have to get used to using, which is basil brush. And if you don't want to use a brush, I don't want to use a brush, I want to be an electrician. And if you think, I can't fix a ceiling rose, that'll be far too hard. I don't know how to work out a switch wire, that'll be far too hard. Then maybe go and look at being a plumber, because yeah, sparky work really ain't cut out for you. So the tools you're going to need to do these little tasks for an electrician, these are just beginning, and if you wire them, that's even more interesting, but they're in other videos. But for doing these tasks for electricians, to make yourself handy, you're going to need some side cutters. Doesn't have to be Nipex ones, they can be any make or model, do exactly the same. Then you want, obviously, a flipping good terminal, because with these pendants, they're small screws and you don't want to slip round and ruin them. So a decent terminal to do them up, and then obviously to fix the ceiling pendant to the ceiling with the 1.5/8" screws is a Phillips screwdriver to do that up. And then for the sockets, it would be handy to have a bigger flathead. There you go. Because it just makes it easier, the more screwdrivers a bit. That's why we have I've got about 20 screwdrivers in my kit, because there's a different screwdriver for every job. And then to testing, to make sure it's dead, obviously you want your little continuity tester for when you're testing for maybe if you lose the switch wire, which a couple of Wagos. Always keep a few Wagos in your kit. It's going to be handy to have a few Wagos in there. And then obviously your socket tester as well. You don't have to have both of these, but as an electrician, you'll use these all the time. So if you have got both, it's going to make your life easier. Just like tools. Tools, the more tools you buy for specific jobs, they do make your life easier. Like, you don't have to use a Phillips. You can use your drill driver to put your pendants up into the ceiling. Again, makes your life easier. So only a few tools you need to get yourself started, but obviously you need a bag to put them in as well. So check in the show notes below and I'll leave a link to the little bags that I recommend